Welcome to our continuing series on technology and healthcare. I'm Ted Dinsmore from SphereGen Technology. In our series, we look at solutions utilizing augmented, virtual, and mixed reality technology in healthcare. Today, we'll be exploring an application which crosses over from healthcare to education. This application uses virtual reality to educate teenagers on the dangers of vaping. The application was created by Kimberly Hieftje, assistant professor at Yale Department of Pediatrics and the creator of Play4REAL XR Lab. So hi, Kimberly. I'm happy to be talking to you today, and thank you so much for your time on this. It's a really interesting subject for everyone involved. Can you start out by just telling us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm an assistant professor at Yale Pediatrics. I started at Yale as a postdoc over 12 years ago, and have been working in game-based behavior change interventions and XR-based interventions during that entire time. And then over the last 4 years, I've started my own XR lab, really focused on how we can bring XR technology to kind of amplify and kind of augment some of these game-based health interventions that we were already developing.
Can you explain what your virtual reality experience is all about? The one that we're talking about today around vaping.
Sure. So this is invite only, a vaping prevention game. That's the title. It's developed with initially for the Oculus, for the Gear VR, and then we moved into the Oculus Go, and now it's both as still on the Oculus Go, but also as a web-based version. It was fun. It's a project funded by Oculus, so we've been super excited to partner with them on this kind of 4-year adventure. But the game is actually a narrative-based game where teens go through a day, a normal day of what it's like to be in high school, and along that time, they're meeting peers and their characters and friends and people they're put in these kind of risky situations involving vaping. So the way we develop the game, it uses voice recognition software. So we have kids actually kind of immersed in an environment that feels very similar and relatable to their own school and kind of party environments that they're in. And so they have to actually use their voices to practice with characters on different ways to say no and how to get out of these kind of sometimes difficult situations around risky behaviors, because it's all about saving face, right? This idea of just say no does not work, and we know that. So we're trying to kind of arm kids with skills beforehand, before they're actually put into these kind of situations. So maybe they have some practice.
And how do you think? I mean, you touched on it there about the voice integration in a virtual reality world where they're immersed in it too. How does that reach the goal that you're trying to get around teaching the issue of vaping?
Yeah, but because I see it as where it's more of a behavior change or kind of a health promotion game. So we're really getting beyond education. This is not just kind of regurgitating facts about vaping and nicotine addiction. We actually, this is the wonderful part about games and game-based learning, is that we can create opportunities for this experiential way of learning so that they actually are doing the skills. They're practicing applying knowledge. They're practicing skill refusal, and so we're able to do things that maybe we couldn't necessarily do in other types of kind of interventions, didactic interventions.
And you chose to use virtual reality on this, which is, I love the idea, because immersing the student in the virtual world. But why would you use the virtual reality versus web or augmented reality?
Yeah, there's quite a few kind of advantages to that. I mean, there's always the disadvantages in terms of implementation, especially around COVID and expensive headsets. But the advantage to it, I think, is one, just on the very, very technical piece, we have kids captured. We have them in a headset. They're in an environment. They can't open another tab on their computer. They're not getting out their phone to text a friend. They're not bugging the kid next to them. We've got their full attention, and we've got them immersed. Also with VR, we can really create this idea of immersion. I mean, we can do that with games and web-based games, game apps, but VR really brings that to a whole other level of immersion because we can really play with the binaural audio. We can do a lot with sound effects. We can do so much to increase that feeling of being there. And then again, like that voice recognition software, you're actually, practicing and getting to look characters in the eyes and watching them respond to you and getting to feel that, right? And so I think that's a lot different than kind of maybe if you could compare it to a traditional game-based intervention on a web like a web-based
game or even a video-based training. Like it's
Yes.
such a different experience that you're getting at. And I love the voice interaction part. I think that is training them to say those words and having them words is a great way to do it. Well done with that. So what groups have you worked with so far on this? And do you have, and it's always hard to measure results here, saying, okay, X amount of kids didn't start vaping. It's really hard to measure this. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we did conduct a non-randomized controlled trial with 285 students in the Milford School District. So we worked with 3 middle schools. So we enrolled 7th and 8th graders, ages 11 to 14. We were really looking at this primary prevention. So we were because they're young and I think at the beginning of the study, only 3% of kids reported vaping, that they had tried vaping, and at the end of the study, it was the same, 3%. And this was across both groups. So in many ways, we can't really say much because this was a group that was not at high risk. It's not necessarily going to make a lot of behavioral changes in over 6 months, but across both groups. So that means, yeah, we targeted the right population for prevention. But we did our kind of pre-assessments and post-assessments, and then we followed kids along for 6 months to see if they retained some of these beliefs and perceptions, harm perceptions and things over time. So compared to the control group, we increased their e-cigarette knowledge, we increased their nicotine knowledge, we increased their perceived addiction to e-cigarettes, which is huge, right? Because kids really truly think it's water vapor and they can't get addicted. And that's the real message we wanted the game to give. The perceptions of harm, that vaping can be harmful, nicotine is harmful. And their social perceptions, this idea that everybody's doing it and it's cool. Well, no, not everybody is doing it, and you can get in a lot of trouble because it's illegal. So we were able to do that. So that's a great markers to this idea of behavior change, that we can change some of these kind of mediators of behavior change. We were excited to see that.
And I guess the natural extension is, so you've used this for vaping. How else do you see this going forward, using virtual reality applications, whether it's this one or additional ones? How do you see we can use this in more areas? And what are those areas?
Right. Yeah. I think in the work based on this game, we're really going to extend this into thinking how we can use in real time, use these kind of platforms to connect kids within the game. So, and we're really wanting to bring in more around mental health. We're wanting to extend this into marijuana use, marijuana vaping. We really kind of, when you think about the risk behaviors that we can target, we can apply this to a lot of different risk behaviors, but really trying to think more how we can leverage VR in the sense of the hardware and the immersive experience. So I think moving forward, I'd really like to test the boundaries a bit more around XR, XR VR itself. And even thinking, how can we move this into AR just for the purposes of seeing what this kind of intervention could look differently. And in AR, because it has different implications. So, we're really going to be moving forward with a lot of ideas on how to build on this work.
It's amazing work. It's absolutely amazing work, and great social impact, using games for good. How can people get in? So somebody hears this or hears about it. How can they get involved? How could they adopt your programs into their school systems or for their children?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing to do is just reach out to us. We are, like I said, we are moving to extend this game and some other games that we have. We're really wanting to look forward to working with schools and after-school programs, community programs that serve youth and teens. So if anyone wants to reach out to us, they can reach out to me directly, or they can visit our Play for Real XR Lab website and email us directly from there too. So we are excited to bring people in the community involved. And you know, if we have teachers out there, schools that are interested, we're happy to get them involved.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Kimberly. And it is amazing, as we've been doing this series of technology and healthcare, the different usages of in the virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality world. And it's just great to see. I'm really encouraged to see it going into the education element of this, because we use it in business, we see it in hospitals, all this technology being used. But really, as we get it into these education scenarios, we have much higher rate of kids being able to adopt and leverage the technology, and it helps us overall in the world that we're trying to help create, right? A better world. So thank you so much for all your work you're doing on this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.